Has it ever happened to you to perceive, in the nocturnal silence, the incessant beating of that second hand that moves? That rhythmic sound that marks the flow of moments, sometimes reassuring, other times distressing. But what would you think if we told you that there exists a particular clock, whose echo crosses all of humanity? A chronometer that doesn't measure daily hours, but the future of the entire planet. We are talking about the Doomsday Clock. This emblem was created to show how close humanity is to annihilation. Its hands, which advance toward the final midnight, seem to announce only tragic events. Yet, within this emblem of fear, hides a light of hope. How can this be possible? Today, we will accompany you on a journey that will make you discover this emblem through a completely renewed perspective. A journey that will touch prophecies, mystical life, and the existence of one of the most decisive personalities of the 20th century. If these themes are close to your heart, help us spread them. A like can do so much, as well as your subscription to the channel. Thank you from the heart. Let's start from Poland, a nation rich in history and deep faith. It is here that Saint Faustina Kowalska, in the pages of her diary, transcribed the revelations received directly from Jesus. From Poland will emerge a spark that will prepare the world for my final coming. An enigmatic prediction that for decades has stimulated the reflection of theologians and believers. But who represents this spark? And what connection does it have with the Doomsday Clock? The solution, we discover it in a figure who transformed the contemporary history of the Church and humanity. Karol Wojtyla, known throughout the world as Pope John Paul II. John Paul II was not simply a religious guide, he was an authentic mystic. A person who intensely experienced his own faith, and who possessed a particular perception of the era in which he lived. His spirituality was characterized by a very deep relationship with the Virgin Mary, a relationship that defined his entire life and his papal ministry. Totus tuus, completely yours, represented his creed, consecrated entirely to Mary. This devotion was not exterior, but founded on a profound understanding of the Marian role in the divine project. John Paul II recognized in Mary not only the Mother of God, but also a guide for humanity in moments of difficulty. Like John Paul II, let us place ourselves under the protection of the Most Holy Virgin. Let's write together in the comments. Mother Mary, guide us. Amen. His mystical experience went beyond Marian devotion. John Paul II was known for dedicating many hours to prayer, frequently absorbed in states of deep contemplation. In Medjugorje, where the young Father Karol served as vicar from 1948, Father Jarek Zilecki testifies. During prayer, his gaze seemed to fix on something concrete, it was not vaguely dispersed in emptiness. From this intimacy with God, everything is born. Father Paweł Sukiennik confirms. In front of the representation of the Virgin, which stands on the main altar, the future pontiff entered mystical ecstasy. But that's not all. Monsignor Paweł Tasnik, who worked directly with the pontiff, reported that John Paul II possessed the charism of bilocation. The ability to manifest simultaneously in different places. On one occasion, recounted Monsignor Tasnik, while the Pope was participating in a meeting with us in the Vatican, he was simultaneously cited in adoration in St. Peter's Basilica. And then, we have the most exceptional testimony. Cardinal André Maria Desker, longtime companion of the Pope. In an interview on January 30, 2004, made a statement of fundamental importance. The Holy Father is an authentic mystic. Only at Coimbra did I have certainty. I understood that he had visions of the Virgin. How did he learn this? Surprisingly, through Sister Lucia. Desker narrated of his visit to Sister Lucia, interested in knowing if the Pope had followed all the indications of the Virgin of Fatima. He asked Sister Lucia if she should transmit any particular message to the Holy Father. And Sister Lucia's response was extraordinary. It's not necessary, because the Virgin Mary communicates with him personally. Father Michel Rodrigue also shares an extraordinary episode of his encounter with John Paul II. Father Michel went to Rome and one day set out in search of St. Peter's tomb in the Vatican Basilica. He found himself in front of a staircase and decided to go up. At the top there was an open door. He entered and saw Pope John Paul II sitting at the desk, who obviously was not expecting visitors. The Pope turned toward Father Michel smiling, asking him in French if he could help him, despite not knowing his language. Father Michel, amazed, knelt down, saying he was fine and didn't need anything. The Pope insisted, asking if there was something he needed, but Father Michel refused. The Pope invited him to stand up and asked him who had sent him. Father Michel replied that it had been the Blessed Virgin. And the Pope replied, with naturalness, that sometimes she acted like that. Then he suggested he read Peter's letters and the First of John, because they concerned that era. It is fundamental to remember that the mystical formation of young Karol was profoundly marked by Jan Tyranowski, his mentor. Tyranowski introduced the future pope to reading the great Spanish mystics, especially Saint John of the Cross and Saint Teresa of Avila. "It's not complicated to be saints," was the expression that Tyranowski repeated to his young people, and among these, there was Lolek, Karol's nickname. It is in this environment of profound spirituality and mysticism that we must interpret John Paul's vision, too, on current times. He, more than anyone else, realized that we live in the era of the apocalypse. But attention! Not in the destructive sense that we commonly give to this term, but in its authentic meaning of revelation, of manifestation of a fundamental truth. The Polish pontiff, that spark predicted by Saint Faustina, possessed an exceptional understanding of the signs of the times. And among these signs, one in particular attracted his attention. A sign that brings us back to the concept of the Doomsday Clock, but in a completely different key. This sign is Medjugorje. John Paul II recognized in this place something particular, something essential, for the future of humanity. Listen to the account, told directly by Mariana of Medjugorje. It was in July 1987. I participated in the Croatian pilgrimage for the Marian Holy Year. During the audience, the Holy Father, passing by, blessed us. Just a moment before he reached me, some people began to shout, telling him who I was. Then the Pope came back, and once more, blessed me. Then, they came to tell me that the Holy Father wanted to meet me at Castel Gandolfo. At first he spoke in Polish, thinking I understood it. Then he realized I was more skilled in Italian. He told me words that remained imprinted in my heart. If I weren't Pope, I would already be in Medjugorje. Even though I couldn't go there, I know everything, and I follow everything. Protect Medjugorje. It is the hope of the world. I cried, and couldn't say anything, because the words got stuck in my throat. From my point of view, it was clear that he was a saint. His eyes shone when he spoke of the Mother of God. He was in love with the Virgin Mary. But why? What did John Paul II see in Medjugorje that escaped many others? The answer is surprising. Medjugorje represents the living Doomsday Clock. Not a chronometer of destruction, but of hope. Not a countdown toward the end, but a call to conversion, to prayer, to reconciliation. The messages transmitted by the Queen of Peace in this sanctuary speak of peace, of return to God, of transformation of the heart. They constitute an urgent invitation to change direction before it's too late. John Paul II had intuited it. That's why he emphasized so much the importance of safeguarding Medjugorje, of guarding this spiritual center of the world. Because in that place, like in a divine chronometer, the time remaining for humanity is counted, to choose the path of salvation. But there's more. John Paul II, with his profound spiritual intuition, probably understood an even more significant aspect of Medjugorje. The famous 10 secrets. The Polish pontiff, with his mystical wisdom, was aware that through these 10 secrets, one would arrive at the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. A triumph announced at Fatima, and which according to John Paul II, finds its continuation precisely in Medjugorje. In fact, the Holy Father had declared that Medjugorje is the continuation of Fatima. A powerful statement that unites two of the most significant Marian events of our era. This makes us understand how much John Paul II saw Medjugorje not as an isolated phenomenon, but as an element of a vaster divine design. A plan that is being realized before our eyes. In this perspective, the Doomsday Clock acquires an even deeper meaning. It is no longer only an emblem of impending danger, but becomes a divine chronometer that marks the time toward the triumph of good. Medjugorje, with its secrets and its messages, thus becomes the dial of the spiritual chronometer that brings us closer not to destruction, but to the realization of divine promises. As John Paul II always brought everything to Mary with his totus tuus, we too want to entrust our concerns to the Virgin. Share your prayer intentions in the comments, and let's all pray together. John Paul II also left us something that will be necessary during the time of refuges. If you wish to discover what it is, click on the video that has appeared on your screen. May God always illuminate your path. We'll see each other in the next video.